it's certainly true. I mean, yes, it's true. I don't feel I'm the right person to really say how close workers attached to specific industry. So maybe I'll talk about something slightly different, which is it's certainly true that the Labour Party has a strong emotional attachment to its roots, and its roots are in mining on the West Coast. So in addition to workers themselves, this is a kind of historical relationship there, which is, I think, one of the reasons why the Labour Party, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why at least parts of the Labour Party are quite resistant to this message. But on the other hand, the second edition of this report, 2015 one, was presented at the May Day celebrations at Blackpool on the West Coast. Jeanette went down there to speak, and she got a very good hearing, particularly from the Mayor of Buller. I mean, other people too, but the Mayor of Buller is somebody you wouldn't automatically think is going to say, yay, just transition. I suppose. So I guess what I'm saying is, yes, that attachment is there, but the circumstances which have seen many, many jobs in the industry lost over the past few years they don't alter the sentimental attachment, but the world has not been kind to workers in those jobs. I mean, that's like I know that's kind of a sentimental way of saying it itself, which really what capitalism has not been kind to workers in those jobs. And so I think that's increased people's willingness to listen to a different message.
Can I just add something? So like Correlation Network, Aotearoa, have never asked to sort of like immediately stop coal mining. That's never been our policy. With the mines running, they're existing, those mines should run their course. The thing is to stop expansion and to move on transition. And I think part of that policy is a recognition that people are working and they have affinities with the mines that they're currently mining. But it's sort of like looking ahead and making that transition.
I'm just increasingly aware that time is pressing. So the next part, that is sort of transitioning our swap in terms of facilitating. Can we do it formally? Just quickly, everyone. There is hot soup. I'm increasingly aware that it is getting kind of chilly in here. So there is hot soup available in the slow cookers on the table. If you want to get up and have yourself to a cup, feel free. Yeah, maybe. All right, so now that we're kind of beginning to think about just transition stuff, immediately, what do we think that okay, so what changes could we foresee happening in finance, retail, service, and industry? What will be the key changes we'd imagine happening over the next 10 years? What can we see happening, both good and bad? Possibilities. So we could think in terms of just transition, but we can also be thinking about other things as well, I guess. And I have a note here which does not apply because it's actually to the next one. So 10 years, possibilities for the industries, good and bad. Why don't we once again continue with it from Ed over?
Yeah. So if you think about the industries where we represent workers, generally what those workers are doing are taking things from other places that have arrived on these shores, taking them to another part of the country and then selling them. Right, so, I mean, we're not talking about building stuff and making stuff and that kind of thing. We're talking about jobs in the distribution, retail, and financing supply chains. And I guess if I think about those kind of supply chains, I see two impulses working against one another. One would be a sort of intensification of the whole narrative of financialization, deepening of the foreign control of the supply chains that we're already looking at. And greater fragmentation of the workplace and more pressure on wages. So that's one kind of narrative that's taking off. And you can see that through all the, the sort of free trade agreements that we're negotiating, the financial deregulation that's still continuing. But then there's this sort of other narrative which is taking shape at the same time, and I think that's being spurred along by things like the environmental catastrophes and the food crises and structural unemployment and all that kind of thing, and meetings like this that are taking place, because I think in 10 years you're not going to see less of these kind of meetings. I think you're going to see more of these meetings where people actually have a reason to come to them, not just because they're interested in the issue, but because their work in some way depends on it. So I don't think by 10 years' time we can say, oh yeah, we will have solved the problem and it'll be sweet. I think we're still going to be dealing with fucking massive banks. We're still going to be dealing with, we're probably going to be dealing with more European and American supermarkets that are coming here and taking over the existing Australian companies that dominate us. And that's going to be more explicit. But I think that there will be a more active impulse amongst people to organise because they'll be able to see the negative effects of what these things are doing. So in a way, as a trade unionist, that's like bread and butter stuff. Capital gets bigger and workers' movements get stronger. That's what I see in 10 years anyway.
I also see more gangsters executing coups like in Greece. Yeah.
No doubt, yeah.
Yeah, so Heleyni, 10 years, possibilities for improvement, possibly even getting better in terms of sustainability, or possibilities for getting worse?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, I think unfortunately things might continue to get a bit worse before they get better. But you never know what's going to happen, because, I mean, I wouldn't have thought that Occupy Wall Street would ever happen. So, let's be optimistic. But definitely in the industries that Unite represents, I would say absolutely like further mechanisation where it can happen. Anything to reduce labour costs will be introduced. As we seek to secure hours, it helps to grow the union and to essentially, it creates a better organised workforce, which is one of the main, which is apart from obviously improving lives, it's also about, that will help to maintain union membership. It's one of the big problems is we have to recruit 4,000 new members a year in order for Unite to stand still. And it's like, we got 8 organisers. Working fast, so constantly talking to people all the time. As we improve conditions, there's always going to be pushback around, trying to squeeze what companies can to make more profits. Industry-wise, definitely any, supermarkets, for example, of, they've introduced these checkouts. I wanted to say robot checkouts, but they're not saying yes. But they've got
in the UK they call them chipping pins.
Yeah, any kind of self-service type thing, that they could possibly do. And we haven't seen much of it yet, but we've heard rumours of that kind of thing possibly coming out. So that could be interesting. But I think in terms of where, is it like 10 years' time, what will happen to the world?
Regional focus.
Regional focus, okay, yeah. I would hope that the union movement shifts into a direction that is kind of like, we need to encompass these social, we need to again look to kind of encompass social problems or like social questions again and make that relevant to union organising. Because that's actually how the union movement will grow, is through, people feeling like they can actually change things that matter, not just at their workplace, but in the world. That's when the union movement's being strong. It's just like anti-nuclear campaign, anti-apartheid, this kind of stuff. So I am confident that because of the crisis of the increasing, unfortunately, the decline in the union movement and union membership, that the union movement will continue to be outward looking and start to kind of engage in these new questions, which will be like just good for organising on leave,
Thank you. So,
Transition 10 years going forward.
Thinking specifically about house
Yeah.
oil integration relates to that.
I mean, the oil's just they're going to keep extracting oil for the next 10, probably 20 years, because there's that much of it around. New Zealand is very, very, very healthy with it. I think all it's really going to take is just a little bit more, to stable. We need to be stable a little bit more, and then I think you'll see America drive up the barrel price, and then there's going to be big projects that I'm dealing with now in the South Basin coming up. So I'm dealing with oil companies now, Statoil and Chevron.
Yep.
So we're dealing with them, so that's going to continue for the next 10 to 20 years. Whether we like it or not, it's there. Because it's black gold, that's what it is. It makes the world go round. As far as the trade union movement is concerned, I believe you will have more federations and amalgamations. In 10 years' time, I probably, my personal view, I'd like to see probably 3, maybe 4 unions in New Zealand. Cover everyone, that's it. And do massive agreements, and that's where you've got to go, because it's about, because what comes with all of those, you've got superannuation funds, which is workers' capital. So when you've got big unions, like covering massive workers with workers' capital, you have a say where that capital goes, and you can use it for infrastructure. It's big there, I've sat down and had the discussions, and as I said, I was just over in Australia just last week, and sit down with the board there, they're talking about workers' capital, saying we just got a couple of small funds, there's only 7 billion in our fund, then we've got the other one, Australian one's 150 billion, They're talking about how workers' capital can be used for the workers. As such, where you can go, what you can do. Automation is going to be a very big one for the trade union movement and for workers in general. I believe it's just as you say, you see supermarkets, everything else out there. And you currently have now in Denmark, you've got the trucks, you've got everything, it's there. You've got massive trains there, but they're on the roads, and they're like those little reflectors that are in the hubs. They just drive and they just click, click, click. No drivers or nothing in them. That's it there, lines of 20 and 30 trucks. They're there, automated ships travelling around the world. So that's going to be a very big thing for automated ports in New Zealand. It's going to be expensive, but at the end of the day, one thing I do know is that the capital system shows and knows no boundaries when it comes to giving a worker a kick.
Right.
And if they can replace them with a robot to do those things, they will. And they come up with all these things, but the robot doesn't get sick. But who puts the robot together? There's all those things. So I think automation is going to be a lot more pain ahead the next 10 years for workers, unless we organise and agitate from within and sit down. Don't sit down and say, oh yeah, I want to join the union. Well, that's good. Well, let's run a campaign, what we're doing here. Hard probably not in a union, but that's okay. I'm good at sitting down talking with people. But you've got to organise and understand where you come from. We're society. We make society, not a unionist. As human beings, we make society run. That's all it is. And if we can't grasp that concept, all workers in the world will fall over. And in the end, also come up with a capital system, like we are now. See, Greece, what's happening around the world. So, all those things,
Got a couple of questions. Jessie, do you have a...
I don't know if I want to get this on the same point, because I was, and I've forgotten the next few questions, but you might be coming to this. Mine was more around how we, kind of more specifics around how we work together across groups. So my question's around that, so I don't know.
It would be important for us to move on to that soon, I think. I'm Griffin and eventually Ed.
I was actually going to ask Joe what you think about having robot trade unions.
That may be the answer. Maybe what you know. Because that's what exactly what I was going to say. It was organised, a robot organiser talking about robots.
I'll be back to collect your union fees.
Thank you, Tom.
Your fine contribution. All right. We're going to swap again
Just
very quickly.
I could ask from here.
Yeah. As we move on to...
This is I think we're okay. We're going to move on to that big question about how we get together. So I've just got another question for Tim, which is thinking specifically, I suppose, with what's happening with coal. We've got that immediate example of thinking what's going to happen in the short term from, I suppose, Kenneth's perspective and experience.
To the coal market, or?
I suppose if you're thinking about that transition on the West Coast, if you've got the insights you can offer.
Well, it's